Okay, so let's start. So the first in Pantheon that I want to talk about is amongst the gods and goddesses. The first one is Venus. And with, I'm not sure to what extent I want to how much detail I want to get into this, but so I'm going to uh, sort of list them out. And like I said, this is a way to sort of start with this, and I might have additions to this. So, okay, so the first is Venus, which is the goddess of beauty, love, lust, and fertility. And always, when I'm describing these gods and goddesses, you can sort of think of them and think of the details, think of the ideals that are present within them, think how they are sort of present in their forms, in the forms of these gods and goddesses. And you can sort of think of that, think of the archetype and the way it speaks to us. Think of sort of the details, think of their clothing, think of the environment, think of the overall aesthetic of that would be present in and around these gods and goddesses. So Venus, think of the various artistic ways that you can think of this. And okay, so the next one is Medusa, which is the goddess of multifacetedness. Again, so try to imagine this in various ways. Think of what sort of qualities would this goddess possess? What sort of what would be the psychological ways that you can think of it? What would be what would be the interactions? What could you learn from this goddess? What kind of in what way would this goddess inspire you? So the next goddess is Sophia, which is the goddess of discernment and wisdom. Wisdom is something that tells us what is, and you can sort of think of it. Imagine in what way you would want to look. What would be sort of the aesthetic of this goddess? Think of the interactions. Think of what sort of things you would expect. In what ways would be the interventions of this deity? You can think of it in that way. What would be the things that would inspire you, and what would they teach you, and in what ways and what qualities from these archetypes and gods and goddesses can you learn from them and sort of let these qualities take form and improve and get yourself to your maximum sort of potential. Think of it in that way. So I think discernment and wisdom, very important things to see, to have that judgment, to be able to see things clearly, to when things are sort of uncertain and hazy, to be able to have that piercing gaze that goes in and finds what is the right thing and what makes sense. There is that rationality to it. There is that logic to it, which gives us that discernment, that wisdom. So a very important way to look at it. And so the next is the god Excelsior, which is, I've added many different qualities to it, and you can sort of think of these as would be present in an ideal masculine god. So these are the qualities of masculinity, sweetness. There is a very ideal, an ideal male archetype would have a certain sweetness, would have a certain politeness, a certain way that they interact, have very positive interactions with others. They raise others, make them feel in a positive sense. So there is the qualities of like I was describing the um, what are they gods of? So there is charisma, there is intelligence, there is calmness and somberness, there is innovation and strategy and unpredictability. very masculine ways of interacting and looking at the world and making sort of decisions, you can say, navigating through. So there are lots of, like I said, there is an ideal masculine archetype would be strategic in their actions, in their reasonings, in their rationale, and there would be that calmness, there would be that state of concentration, and with that calmness would come that concentration. That calmness would also come from the strategic decisions which are made using very good rationale, from which also will come that that calmness and that. So again, to think of this archetype, think of this god, what sort of, how would you perceive in an artistic form? How would you look? Like I said, think of all the details, in what ways you might want to think of it. I don't know if I want to describe it too much. I think I want to leave something, because I think, yeah, I don't know to what extent I want to describe this. But, hmm. Okay, so anyway, so think of an ideal masculine form. Think of the way this god would dress. Think of the colors. Think of the details. Think of that. Like I said, that sort of strong masculine form. Think of think of the demeanor that this god would have. So a very interesting archetype, a very which has those ideals present in them, and yeah, something that can inspire us. Okay, so yeah, I thought, yeah, these were some interesting qualities, and like I said, these are four that I'm listing out right now. Like I said, I'm going to, I think one of the other gods that sort of appeals to me is Dionysus. I think I might talk about that at some point. For now, I'm listing it with these four. I just thought I would maybe like sort of just make a little mention of there. Okay. So, and with these four gods, I think I want to add the element of, to all four of them, the element of uh, protectiveness and empathy. I think these are very human emotions, very human, what would you call it, drives, to look, to be, yeah, to be empathetic and protective of others, and those you care about, those you love. And yeah, I think I would ascribe these qualities to all four that I described previously. Okay, so so after this, I want to get to the concept, which is kind of the central concept, and I will get that. Yeah, I will get to that now.